everyone, it's Nick here with Nick's Hard Rock CD album review. I hope everyone's doing well. The band we're going to look at today is Skid Row. Now this is their second album, Slave to the Grind, and it was released in June of 1991. I'll just read out the song tracks from the album. We've got Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, The Threat, Quicksand Jesus, Psycho Love, Living on a Chain Gang, Creep Show, In a Darkened Room, Riot Act, Mud Kicker, and Wasted Time. There's some little photos of the band members on the actual CD, so it's a bit hard to see because of the glare. Anyway, we'll give it a shot. There's Raquel Bolan, the bass player, Robert Fuso, the drummer, Sebastian Bach, lead vocals, Dave Sabo, guitarist, and Scotty Hill, guitarist. There we go. So, now, of course, Skid Row is their second album, and Skid Row's first album was just huge. It was massive, and this followed on with success. This album didn't have the huge success of the first album, but it still had a lot of success. And with this album, it's a much heavier album. It's heavier than their first album. And congratulations to Skid Row, because they really pulled this album off. It really works well. And their heaviness just shows a band that is willing to, not necessarily change, but a band that's willing to explore new musical territories. Their first album was your sort of hard rock, hair band type, glam type sound. But with this album, it's a heavier, mature album, and it works well. I mean, as an example, the second song, Slave to the Grind, is full on. It is absolutely full on. I remember the first time I heard this album, back in the day when I got it, I thought, my God, that song that I'm talking about, Slave to the Grind, it actually verges on speed metal. Speed thrash, not thrash, but speed metal. It goes really fast, and it's a big change from Skid Row's usual sound. But this is a top album. It's a heavy album, and congratulations to the guys for doing this. Because it really showed that they weren't a one-trick pony, so to speak. They had a lot more to give, and they certainly did. And just to show you that there's still an interest in Skid Row. I mean, within the first week, this album sold 134,000 copies. Now, that's fantastic. You got to remember in 1991 as well, where things were changing. Nirvana were just around the corner, about to release their massive album, Pearl Jam. So, congratulations to the guys. And this album actually went number one on the American Billboard 200 chart. Number one. I mean, that's a fantastic effort. It actually went. It actually went fifth on the UK charts, 16 on the Austrian charts, number 8 on the Canadian charts, number 12 on the German charts, number 3 on the Japanese charts. So it did well in Japan. Number 8 in New Zealand charts. Number 12 on the Norwegian charts. Number 9 on the Swedish charts. Number 15 on the Swiss charts, and here in Australia reached number 3. So, that they did really well here as well, here in Australia. And they did release 5 singles, Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, Wasted Time, In a Darkened Room, and Quicksand Jesus. In regards to album sales, this album went 2 times platinum in America. That's 2 million plus albums. It went platinum in Canada as well, in Canada. It went silver in the UK, so it's 60,000 plus albums sold. And here in Australia, it reached gold status. So it's gold album sales status. So it did really well, and the actual cover art here, I don't know if you can see properly. It's actually a mural. It's a painting. Now, this was actually painted by Sebastian Bach, the lead singer, his father. His father was a well-known painter. So this is it's all like it's a big mural But yeah, it's a very detailed, very detailed painting. But yeah, it's Sebastian Bach's father who did that. And also with this album that they Skid Row opened up for Guns N' Roses on Guns N' Roses' massive Use Your Illusion tour back in 91, 92, 93. And I was grateful to see Skid Row perform some of the songs off this album when they came to Australia, supporting Guns N' Roses. So it was great to hear some of the songs off this album played at the Guns N' Roses concert, which I was there in 1993. So yeah, great memories. And they Skid Row also toured with Pantera. Now, I know you guys know, but Pantera was a full-on heavy metal band, sort of thrash metal band. And Pantera was so impressed with Skid Row, especially this album, that Pantera agreed to tour with Skid Row. So it really showed that Skid Row could really do no wrong. I mean, they tour with other great bands and big, well-known bands. As I said, Guns N' Roses, Pantera, Motley Crue. They played with Motley Crue on Motley Crue's massive Dr. Feelgood tour. LA Guns. And also back in the day, a few years earlier, previous to this, they played with Bon Jovi. They really hit the ground running, these guys. Now, look, my favourite tracks would have to be Slave to the Grind, which, as I mentioned, is just full on. It's like speed metal. It's unbelievable. It's not your normal Skid Row. The Threat, it's another song. Quicksand Jesus, it's a slow song, but it's got this really, the crescendo just builds and builds throughout the song. And Sebastian Bach, as I said in the Skid Row video, the band video, has just got a phenomenal voice. He could absolutely hit those high notes, and he could also sing the low notes as well. A great singer and a funny guy too. As I've mentioned, I've seen interviews with him on YouTube, and he's a funny man. He really is. Another one, Living on a Chain Gang. It's got the soaring vocals, and In a Darkened Room. It's another slow song. Now, in regards to these slow songs, I wouldn't call them, ballads. Your typical love ballads or anything like that. They're actually very mature songs, and they are not your normal ballad songs. They've got a good mature meaning behind the songs, and of course, Skid Row had the massive. Speaking of love ballads, they had the massive love ballad song "I Remember You" on their first album. But here they don't necessarily have that. They had 3 slow songs, but they got nothing to do with finding love or breaking up, as a lot of those bands used to write about. And the end song called "Wasted Time," that's a slow song, but it just builds and builds. And that was actually written about Steve Adler, the original drummer from Guns N' Roses. As I said, Skid Row and Guns N' Roses had a lot of history together, and yeah, Steve Adler had a lot of personal demons, to say the least, that he was trying to get through. But that song was written about him, "Wasted Time." Look, this is just a fantastic follow-up album. You can't go wrong. It's Skid Row showing maturity, showing depth, showing that they can. Not that they can, they did, produce a heavy album, and they certainly did it. They kicked it out of the ballpark with this one. They really did. And I'm really glad that I've got this. And Skid Row have always been a favourite of mine. So look, with this, I would give this album an 8.5 out of 10. It's a great follow-up album. And Sebastian Bach, what a singer. And the rest of the band, they're great band. They're great musicians. So there we go, Skid Row's second album, released in 1991. So thank you all for watching, and I hope everyone's doing well and staying safe and looking after yourselves. And until then, I'll see you later. Bye bye.